news out today that the government is likely to stay firm with their decision that NHS workers need to be double jabbed by the 1st of April. That's the deadline. But as 80,000 NHS workers are yet to be vaccinated, is it fair to force them to have the vaccine? And I know, Colleen, you are very against kind of mandatory vaccinations,
Yes,
aren't you?
I'm totally against it. I really am. I just don't feel you have a right to force somebody who has, for whatever reasons that they do have for not being vaccinated, it's their choice. And I don't think you can force somebody to inject something into their body that they don't want.
But if you were going into hospital for an operation or one of your loved ones, how nervous would you be to think that somebody or more than one person, possibly operating on them even, wasn't vaccinated?
Well, just as nervous I'll be as about someone that I know who's vulnerable going to the supermarket, where I think they'll catch it much easier. Because if they go into a hospital for an operation, they're all masked up, they're sterilised, they've got gloves on, they've got masks on, they've got all the PPI stuff on. So I'd be less worried about that. And I just, again, you know, it's like going out and someone gone, have you had your flu jab this year? Because if you haven't, you can't come in here because you'll give me flu. You know, I just don't think we have a right to tell people what to do. I think it's totally their choice.
Yeah, I'm conflicted with this one, Gloria, because I'm not often conflicted. I've normally got very strong opinions about things. But like Colin, I just don't believe you can force somebody. It's that thought of kind of thinking someone could be pinned down and injected against their will.
You can force them to wear a mask and you can force them to socially distant because that's the rules. But injecting something, you can't.
But the thing is, I mean, as you rightly say, it boils down to one's own decision about their life. I'm actually all for vax. And if there's a fourth one, I'll be first in line to have it. On the other hand, I do respect people who, for medical reasons, doesn't want to have it, can't have it. I really respect that. But selfishly, if I could choose, I would like other people or the people around me, if I was having open heart surgery, I'd like to think that they've been vaxxed. But on the other hand, if I was having open heart surgery, would I say, oh, by the way, are you vaxxed before you do this? However, I talked to somebody in the NHS this morning, and just as a point of interest, when I didn't realise this, and they're sad about the fact that people may have to leave, but before you even start to train as a nurse, you have to have hepatitis jab, you have to have tetanus up to date, you have to have your BCG, and you have to have had chicken pox. So, OK, I think you will argue and say, well, it's because they've all been tested, well and truly tested. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, it boils down to selfishness, I suppose. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying about the force. But, you know, at the minute, we're all forced to do things that we never thought we would be doing. Well,
Kelly, I mean, you've talked, obviously, about your condition. You have lupus. And you're vulnerable. And, you know, very scary for you initially in the first lockdown. And you were isolating. How would you feel if you had to go into hospital now for one of your treatments and the thought that somebody might not be vaccinated around you?
I think the most important thing for me is that that person isn't COVID positive. Like, if you are positive, I don't want you around me. But the vaccination, I think, still remains a person's personal choice. I can't even begin to let us go off down this tangent of taking away people's consent and bodily autonomy. I think that's got to be that person's decision. For me, it is difficult because I'm surrounded by family with mixed views. Some of my family work within the care system and have chosen not to be vaccinated.
You have been vaccinated?
I have.
Yes.
I'm triple jabbed and I've just been pinged for my fourth, of which I will be taking. For me, I just want to do everything that I can to give myself a chance to fight against it. I did contract COVID, but I was double jabbed at the time. And so my symptoms were not as bad as they could have been. So I wouldn't want it again. It wasn't a nice experience. I wasn't hospitalised, but it was a scary time. So I would rather work on the side of, err on the side of caution and take all of the precautions that I can.
And I agree with that. And that's your choice, like it is anyone's choice.
Exactly.
I think a lot of the health unions and things are saying their members, they want more time to encourage and persuade, and that's what I've always believed in. It's about education, encouragement, persuasion, talking to people. Why don't you want it? How can we help you? What are you concerned about? But even at the end of that, if they say no, I think you can't force them.
But I think it's businesses, isn't it? Each business has got their way of working and have got their own rules. And if this business says, you know, like we've got examples of different businesses handling things differently, and that's their those
Well,
their choices, isn't it?
talking of businesses and staying on that subject of COVID and vaccination, some big businesses actually, IKEA, Next, Ocado, Morrison's, they've all revealed that they will not be topping up statutory sick pay for workers who are unvaccinated if they are self-isolating with COVID. So they're not saying, because often you get the statutory sick pay and then your company will top it up to what you would normally earn. They're not saying they won't do that if you've got another illness, but they're saying if you're not vaccinated, they won't top up your statutory sick pay.
Well, what if you haven't had the flu jab and you get flu?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, and you have to be off work with flu, or they'll get paid.
But then, Colleen, this is such a huge worldwide issue. You take, for example, I think it's either Australia or New Zealand today, they have 9 cases of this current vaccine, current virus, and they have now put a block on for over a month.
In New Zealand, yeah. I mean,
because
like,
they are just so
really
careful.
Harsh restrictions.
Well, it is,
so
but they
quickly.
as a country have decided that's what they're going to do. They go, you're not coming in here unless you've been double or triple vaxxed, and if we have 9 cases of it, it's our prerogative to put on a block.
It is, but then it's other people's prerogative to disagree.
Yes.
There'll be lots of people that will say that's draconian, it's too quickly, too soon, too harsh. And I think you were saying earlier, Colleen, that you feel that we're being put into 2 camps. You know, like Brexit, when you were almost nervous to say which way you were voting.
Everyone is starting to row amongst themselves, like the anti-vaxxers against the ones that have... It's like 2 groups of... going to war and everyone's bullying everyone else. Why can't we just accept that we all have, and I think we should all continue to have, freedom of choice?
Do you not
and
think
you have to respect somebody's choice?
But that's what we said earlier. It is personal choice. We know that. But then each person within that personal choice will have their own ideas about, you know, how many other people are vaccinated or people in my work vaccinated or whatever the case may be.
But it also pushes people down a road, I think. You know, if it's going to affect your pay, are you going to lie? It's easy to say I'm not well than it is to say I've got COVID, and then and you're going to get treated in a certain
I think
fashion,
what they're
aren't
saying
you?
is that if you were pinged, if the test and trace inform to say one of your workers, then it's there. It's you know, you're in the system then, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think there'll be people go, I've got a tickly throat, I'm not going to do the test.
What
If
about
it's
when you've
COVID, I won't get paid.
What about when you've been vaccinated? You can still get COVID.
You can.
But not as badly.
But so will they not pay you then? Or will they pay you because you've been vaccinated, but you've still got COVID?
Watch this space, as they say.
I can't be bothered watching this space. I'm bored of this space.
I'll move on then. Colleen, if that's how you feel...
COVID up to here.
If that's how you feel, I will move on, especially for you.
Thank you.
Swiftly.
Thank you.